Welcome back to the show. What an episode we have in store for you today. We'll be joined by Sasha, who is head of business intelligence at Just Watch. Now, today it's going to be for you SQL lovers. We will be talking about how we run highly functional data departments, data analytics, self-service, the story of the modern data stack, and so much more. Enjoy. So, Sasha, running BI without savvy data engineers, where's this come from?
Well, that comes from the need to actually get stuff done and focus more on logic and actually delivering some products, and without really wanting to bother and stuck and being dragged by endless debugging what's going on with the pipelines, like very complex way how to see things in logs. So yeah, that's actually basically the premise. And we do really want to be functional in terms of helping our end users to answer the questions pretty fast. And that usually comes with with high demand, high pace expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, which is probably classical and similar to many companies what they are facing. So yeah, and that's basically what we were aiming for, to really get in the position where we could focus mostly not on how to do things, but actually do things and think about logic mostly. And yeah, that's basically the premise. And I think, honestly, right now, the industry, the domain is in a situation where you can really achieve it pretty fast and also pretty cheap. It's probably one of the best times right now to be in the data in the BI. Because amazing technology-wise time right now we're living comparing to what we had even like, let's say 5 years ago. I mean, not even talking about 15 years ago. That's basically why and how. That's a different story, how we actually achieve that. We right now already, I would say, enjoying this particular mode for a few years, but initially that was been a situation when I joined the company. So we had like several engineers and not really much analytic capabilities, and those engineers were, I mean, classical, so kind of hybrid of DevOps, like system administration expertise, Bash, Python script, Spark, like doing this old school, pretty, complex things. But that was pretty much not super, let's say, productive. I would not say that you didn't do anything, that you did a lot. The thing is, like, with the 2-3 people we had in the team back then, like a classical data engineers, we could maintain like maybe 10-15 models, like logical models, in terms of sessions, users, all that stuff. But that, I mean, maintain. About evolving that is really, that was not even like in discussion. Like there was always a stretch to do something new, like make some, stage version, like, iterate on this, compare it. That was pretty difficult, and definitely didn't really meet the demand for analytics in the company. So, and yeah, that had to change. Also probably the reason why I joined the company and I started breaking everything. So then basically we decided to go full scale on DBT. There was no DBT, there was no Airflow. There was purely cron jobs running some bash scripts that do run some SQL statements, like, in some order. And so it was pretty, low level in terms of like, you have to really write this, like, all these bash scripts and stuff, and maintain it, and then do the cron jobs. And then you play in Kubernetes, which is cool, which is great, which is an awesome technology, but you don't really want to think about that when you just need to, well, I have this data model in mind that business requires, and I don't want to actually think about bash scripts and how to actually execute that. So you just want to express it in SQL in a way. And luckily, back then, DBT was already on the rise. And that was a really good fit.
How long ago was this?
How are we going with DBT?
Yeah. Were you getting involved?
Yeah, how I get involved? Well, it's not like someone pitched it to me. Part of the job is actually to just, listen to what's happening in the industry, be aware, like reading the blogs, watching YouTube channels about particular technologies. I mean, go to meetups, right? So like eventually you're gonna hear about technology if it's great. Actually, fun story. The first time I heard about DBT, that was in a meetup back in 2019, and that was meetup hosted by Snowplow. And there was some company talking about how they, actually do things, snowplow things, but with DBT. And that got my attention, so I had to look into this. And basically, that's a game changer since few years already. I mean, many people realize it. So it's also making even like specific role right now on the market, on the job market, right? So analytical engineer. So whenever, it's actually funny, right? So open source package introduced a very high demanded position for the data. It's like analytical engineer, and people right now recognizing this demand and going to there. So it's pretty remarkable how this could have happened. And yeah, that was as I said, a pretty good requirement. I mean, like prerequisites for the DBT integration. But also we had to handle, besides logical development, we also had to handle, okay, let's say you have a DBT, let's say you have DBT models, then you need to run them, right? You need to like, execute them and stuff. And how do you do it classically? I mean, if you don't have Airflow, some ways, but also you need to talk to SRE people, like DevOps people, right? So they actually can help you with this. So, and that was also kind of a bottleneck because we had to communicate between departments. But what I wanted to actually achieve, so BI department is pretty independent and can do all the things without really asking the help where it's not completely necessary. And so we can really go ourselves with our pace, because like, DevOps could be busy. I mean, website could be down, so obviously they're busy to restoring it. But we also have some stuff to do, and we don't want to depend on that. And like, it's also like, whenever you can eliminate this dependency and you just be fully capable yourself, obviously with this you can really go faster and like, define your own priorities, right? So that's what we also wanted to achieve. And back then also developing all those pipelines was super low level, right? You have to write all those bash scripts like cron jobs and stuff, which requires you to know how to do this. It requires you to know how to write that bash script, like scripts in Python, how to do the cron jobs. So you need to know Kubernetes a little. That requires quite some knowledge, because you can also break some stuff. But I felt that it's not really like, that didn't feel right. Like, it shouldn't be like, there should be something that could really abstract all that complexity and expose a bit more easy way for you to, well, develop, also focus on the logic mostly. And that's actually where Airflow came in. I mean, by then I already worked with Airflow for a few years in my previous company. And that's exactly where it is. Basically, those two combined, they are both open source, right? Airflow is even Apache has Apache quality seal. DBT was really on the rise. I mean, having great adoption. And basically, so if you go open source, you also don't need to pay for anything. That was also highly maintained and super active community. So you always had questions. You can go, I mean, this DBT channel, right? So like, you go there, like, you ask any questions, you have so much response, like sometimes way too much. So especially right now, it's like really probably the place where the people hang out. So it's super active community, it's super helping. That was definitely not a problem for us to get information, because you have great documentation, you actually have community and stuff. Then basically combining those two technologies, we were able to completely break this dependency on this, as you said, like savvy technology skills. So once you have DBT, which is basically 95% writing SQL code, and SQL is de facto standard way of expressing your data queries, like every data person should know it. I mean, even if you focus on Python development, everyone could actually write SQL logic. And then Airflow, I actually would say it's even still a bit savvy, because when you need to write the Airflow DAX, you need to write that Python code, which is also not really actually complex. And it's like 80% of the stuff you write is just copy paste. But what we actually achieved and what we implemented on our setup, our DAX not expressed in Python. So because Airflow is dynamically generating all your pipelines in Python, so you can actually not really do it really in Python. You still can, but what we do, we just have simple expression of the DAX in YAML, which is pretty readable. And what Airflow is doing on our side, just reads through the YAML files, and based on the specifications you see in the YAML files, it builds the DAX on the fly. And maintaining these YAML files is way easier. It's like, you don't need to even run Python anyhow, right? And like, to teach anyone how YAML works, it's very easy. It's like, it's like Markdown language, it's even like visually more appealing way more than XML or like JSON even. So with this in place, where we had Airflow, so I had to convince our DevOps team to install the Airflow cluster, and which they did. And after that, we could develop all the things, with all the functionality out of the box of the Airflow, very easy, right? So we didn't need to go and deploy some cron jobs and then debug them and try to see what's going on with the help of engineers or the help of the DevOps people. It's just a pure Airflow cluster, which is just running, and the recipe how to run it, it's pretty stable. Yeah, so with that, and obviously when we added capability to run dbt as one of the tasks, which could be it was a little tricky, like, back then, like 4 years ago. Now it's way easier. Yeah, after that, we had all those puzzle pieces together, so we can actually have this infra in place. Based on 2 open source packages, I mean, Airflow and dbt, both Python open source packages. And since that, when we introduced it, there was like process to like migrate to this, like move some legacy logic of the models, because there was some logic in like those 10, 15 models I mentioned about. So we moved this in dbt, and after that, it just exploded in terms of how fast we could go from there with purely writing SQL. So then we had like 2 analysts, I mean, me and another senior BI analyst. And in a year, we scaled it up. So we had 15 models, and like in a year, we had already several hundred, right? So we scaled it, I mean, we replicated, then we optimized, and then we scaled it. And also the whole process, like testing, adding, deploying stuff, it just, out of the box, you don't even think about this. I mean, you could, if you want to, right? You can explore what dbt is doing, but when you're really confident about the tool and how it works, and under the hood how it really acts, you don't even think about this anymore. So because like, yeah, well, just dbt run, dbt tests. And also what's important to mention, we, in this initial phase, switched from Redshift to Snowflake. So this is like very powerful and capable backbone is required. So it's not open source, obviously. And with Snowflake, it was super easy to iterate, especially because of this zero efforts cloning capability, right? Copy capability, when you can basically clone entire database, production one, and test your stuff in there, right? So this is like really cool when you combine it with dbt profiles, dbt environments. So this is really unlocked us, I mean, testing stuff on production data. Let's say you clone production data, you test it there, and then you're fine. Like with the rest of that would actually require what? Cloning the real production database, or in BigQuery the same, then you pay a lot. So in Snowflake, in this regards, as you just making a reference to this, and you can play with that, and you actually don't really pay for copy. That's really great. And when you have all that combined, you can really do way more. And afterwards, actually, our engineers, they didn't really do any data engineering, like classical per se data engineering jobs. What they were focusing on, only on bringing this raw data, like from different sources, but those were classical, let's say, like some Postgres stuff. You need to move to Snowflake, but you don't really transform it, right? So like it's EOT approach. Take it, drop it, that's it. And that's pretty stable. There is like Snowplow source, which has its own out-of-the-box managed solution that can also bring you data into your Snowflake. And that's basically it. That's all the data engineering job that was left to do. And since you have data in Snowflake, business intelligence analysts, developers, they could pick it up from there, writing dbt models, and they didn't really have to really express this logical transformations to engineers, waiting for them to get back to them, like with implementation, after like prioritizing the task, or like, this back and forth communication between analysts and engineers just gone, because analysts themselves are fully capable, as I was actually aiming to achieve for the whole department, and now they, can change and update pipelines at any moment in the whole chain. They don't rely on anyone. So that's actually how we managed to get away from savviness in the technology to really that was like with this savvy, like low level, highly demand skill for DevOps, for engineering, like really classical engineering. This is really where you have to get it there, like in these particular areas. But for business intelligence, for the data analytics, not required with the technologies like Snowflake or BigQuery or Redshift as a backbone, right? So which you didn't have like 15 years ago. Or then with dbt on top, when you express your logic in SQL, and with Airflow that also schedules it very flexibly, and you just go or extend it if you want. So yeah, with that, in a matter of few years, we really scaled and covered all the needs. That was a really good timing, because it was in 2020, because in 2021, after we moved to all those three technologies, there was a huge project, huge demand for all this, development of like analytics, because yeah, I think we would not have managed that without like in old way. So without DBT, Airflow, and stuff, like no way. And I was pretty happy. We made the switch. So we're able to meet the demand. And yeah, team grew a little in terms of analysts, but basically still the main requirement when I'm talking to someone on interview, I will tell that, yeah, well, everything else you can learn here. I mean, if you know Airflow, if you know DBT and Snowflake, great. But if you don't, I mean, not a big deal. But what you have to know is SQL. That's the only thing we're actually testing when we do challenges or interviews, because everything else is technology. You can learn technology fast, right? But if you want to be plug and play, and DBT 95% is SQL, you have to know it. So if you like aiming for mid or senior position, yeah, we expect you to know it, but everything else you can pick it up right here. We're gonna teach you. So, and that also means like it's very low technical barrier for the person to come in and really start developing, bringing the value.
Yeah.
Because SQL is, well, you can learn SQL for a long time, but it's pretty fast to get to the level where you can really express stuff, complex stuff. Top level, that's how it is.
Is it scalable? Is this as you grow? I mean, to get up and running quickly, to get things moving.
Yeah. So when I joined the company was like, it's not a big company, but it does not mean we do not much. We actually, and it's not only applies to the BI, but also to our marketing department, which is backbone of our business model. We scale with technology first. I mean, there are some functions, there are some obviously aspects you cannot fully automate, like when you have to talk to the client, right? So like the more clients you have, so you have like some account managers, so that you can't really fully automate. Well, talking about AI, probably now soon you're gonna be able to. But when it comes to technology, like, setting up campaigns, or like, pulling the data, this is definitely technically possible to automate in a way. And that applies to all the departments. So same to BI. Another thing, like, which came after we moved to DBT, Airflow, and Snowflake, that we were able to deliver analytics and dashboards. Next thing that comes afterwards, well, dashboard is not the end of the story, right? It's not the end of the road, because then you have a growing company, more people coming to you with data questions. Yeah, some things you can answer with dashboards, sure. But it's quite often, well, I need this extra filter that you don't have it there, like, can you add it for me? And then, or like this extra granularity, that to add this, you need to redo everything because you didn't think about that up front for whatever reason. And then it's endless story, right? So you're gonna end up tuning those dashboards or like making new ones. But most of those questions probably could be somehow answered, well, automatically. So we went for self-service exploration. So that was after fixing and making underlying data and processes good. That was okay, cool. Now we do like, we need to go to this upper part of pyramid, right? So foundation is warehouse, in pipelines, then logic and DBT, and then this tip of the pyramid is basically analytics and reporting. So, and my main priority when we were looking for the platform, for the reporting platform, was not really, so I didn't want this to be BI tool. I want this to be our end users tool, first of all, right? If you wanted to be unlocked with a pixel perfect reports preparation, we probably would pick another one. But the goal was to really have self-service. So our users, and they're not technical, most of them, they don't know SQL. They don't need to know SQL. It's not what we want them to do, right? So they have to be experts in marketing, for example. And I cannot expect them to know SQL or like any more even complex technical stuff. So I can expect them to know data they are working with, right? To understand what impressions are, campaigns, setup, suppliers. So that's I can expect. And I also can expect them actually be interested in pulling the results, right? So they want to get answers. They're not pretending they want to get answers. They really want to get answers. And yeah, that's why we went for a self-service approach and focused platforms. And yeah, right now we ended up with the Lidash. So we're working with the Lidash, which is, if you think about that, it's actually logical. So it's also open source. I mean, you can host it open source yourself if you want. We do not host it open source. So we have cloud version, but it's also comparing to other competitors is like not really expensive, and it's like flat price. You pay for the cluster, you don't pay for the users, seats and stuff, licenses. It's kind of flat price. Doesn't matter how much you use that in terms of queries and users, because I think it's actually the best, because basically it's just a web application that you use to pull some data, but the whole heavy lifting is happening behind the scenes by the warehouse you use, and you still pay for that, right? Because you pay for the compute in the Snowflake, Rest, BigQuery, doesn't matter. And for tool itself, doesn't really care that much how much data you have, like trillions of rows, billions or millions, not a big difference. It just generates a query, hits it, wait for reply, get it back, aggregate values, right? And then so then basically it's just more about handling the traffic of users. But that's, I think, reasonable, because I know that a lot of companies are selling based on number of seats, which probably could correlate like a number of on the traffic the platform gets. I get it, but it's also not. It's not that flexible, because I want this self-exploration tool to be super hyped, right? And I didn't want first of all to watch my users and really go after them. Hey, use it too much, it's too expensive, we don't. I mean, my idea was, hey, this is self-service, use it how much you want, however you want, please advertise it to your teammates, and the answers you actually find, and then you can save them and you share it within the team. You can become the champion, your team, like everyone loves you, BI loves you, because you're actually making the content useful for your team, but for us as well. So because we don't do this, because the platform should be able to unlock this not only self-service, but also self-content creation capabilities and sharing stuff. And then obviously I want this to be hyped in terms of usage, and it's really became the adoption is crazy. So we have right now 150, 160, 170 people in the company. And when we introduced Lightdash, I mean, the first months was slow, because when you had to configure stuff, but I think we went to 140 monthly active users already on the third month.
So out of 170.
Yeah. So I mean, it's also important to understand, everyone here at JustWatch is really well, they do love the stuff they do, right? So, and for stuff they actually have to work on, they have to get data, and the easier you can get it, the more effective you can be, right? And once we unlock that exploration, because it's not only about report, you can go there and okay, well, nice, I see this whatever spend per platform, but then how is the difference what's split by country? You click that, go in country, oh nice, I mean, this looks weird, let me explore this more, right? So it's inviting you to explore it, and it's not limiting you, in this particular dashboard here. Dashboard usually you can develop dashboards in Lightdash, but it's usually entry point for exploration. And then once they get a taste of this exploration, they can go and dive and find some interesting insights that BI cannot find, because when we probably don't know that this data is that good, and we're also not super focused on this particular matter right now. So kind of outsourcing this data exploration and unlocking them. And it's great for salespeople as well. Let's say classical, right? Saturday evening, hey, I need by Monday morning this kind of stuff. Can you have to pull it for me? Well, now they don't ask us. Now they go there, because I'm always how I selling this to them. Now you can go there. It's 24/7 for yours. You can find any easy answers. How many users we had in this particular country last month in this particular platform? Sure, here. You even type it and you find it for you. So you don't have to even deal right now anymore with these grumpy BI people that never do it in time for you. They don't really understand. Let's just talk to the platform. So which is great, and they are unlocked, and they even have more insights, because they don't need to communicate to us quite often about what they want. So they can explore it for their pitches, right? Because that's what they actually need for.
Is it self-taught? The business users?
Yeah. Can you please?
Is it self-taught, the business users being able to access the self-service tools, or is it?
Yeah, well, so basically, just access with your Google account, I mean, for JustWatch account, and that's it. So we don't even need to invite configure access for our public data set, which is about platform. Basically, everyone from JustWatch domain can open the link. I mean, and they already automatically create the user for them. And there is a tab for automatic permissions, right? So what happens if you join from JustWatch, and basically everything about platform, which is product analytics, is available by default. Whenever it comes to some more sensitive data, yeah, we need to pre-configure and after configure the stuff, but basically it's flexible. What's cool, I forgot to mention about LiDAR. It's based on dbt natively, so it was developed on top of dbt project. So because many platforms, they pretty old, right? Let's take a Looker, for example, right? So how long is in the market, right? They really have this ecosystem architecture, and dbt is not that old, but it's so popular and companies are moving there, and you basically have all your logic already in dbt expressed anyways, because you develop it, it's there. You have your documentation in there, right? You have your tests in there, and what LiDAR is doing is basically hooking to this. So you just add some extra tags somewhere in dbt projects and documentation, then LiDAR is reading this, and that's it. So you don't need to go into some separate repository, configure your semantics in different place. It's also source control because it's part of dbt project naturally, and then that also comes with a pretty natural CI/CD and testing capabilities because it's like all the same.
Yeah, I've got a question. What would happen if, for whatever reason, dbt just ceased to exist as of tomorrow? What would happen?
You mean dbt labs?
Yeah.
So the company that's basically driving this, for us, nothing, because actually we use open source one, dbt core, and this package is not going to go anywhere. So for those who use dbt labs, I guess they're going to be forced to move to dbt core, which is not really probably, it's annoying, but like not the end of the world. But I do think that even the current state of dbt core itself, I mean, maybe like even a year or two ago, already solved most of the data questions, data problems, right? So, even if it's not changing or not evolving anymore, I think it's going to be just per se the standard how you do the transformations for quite some time before the next big thing comes. So I'm not afraid. I mean, I don't want to jinx it. I mean, I want them actually progress. And I know people can contribute to dbt package, like for example, for LiDAR. It's also open source, but also hosted, I mean, managed by company. But obviously, they accepting contributions to the GitHub repository, so it's open source. So maybe it will be, if dbt labs itself as an entity will cease to exist, then it will be just picked up by community. Maybe eventually it can also get into Apache Foundation. Who knows? I mean, as Airflow went. So Airflow originated from Airbnb, right? That was internal project in there. I mean, if you didn't know, that's why it has Air in the front, because it's Airbnb. That was internal tool they developed for scheduling, and then it was so good, so they decided to open source it, and then like it was so popular, and then it got adopted, and then like went to Apache eventually.
Yeah, the life cycle of Airflow. I wasn't actually aware of that, so fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate you joining us today, Sasha. It sounds like what a good journey you've been on, and I think it's probably the way things will be moving forward. Less and less super technical specialists, more business enablers, and getting stuff done. Like you said, if people wanted to get in touch with you, or what have you got coming up?
Yeah, well,
where would they find you?
Very easy to get in touch, I think, with every more or less caring data person right now. As a matter of fact, dbt Slack channel became the place where all the data people right now hang in anyways. So I guess that's the best place, because you can find anyone. Like really, I had some interesting conversations with the people from, I mean, not even about dbt. Yeah, it's dbt Slack account and stuff, but we were talking about, not about dbt at all. And you can see there are like channels about different platforms, which, and quite often in their conversations has nothing to do with dbt. And like there are some conversations about comparators of dbt. So I think overall, I mean, you can definitely find me there. but also if you are really serious about it, you should go there. So there's a lot of material, a lot of news, blog posts, like, things developed for data, about data. Pretty cool channel about the memes and jokes. I mean, one of my favorite is just, just hanging there.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, you reach me there. LinkedIn, obviously. I mean, yeah, that's, I guess, the best DBT Slack channel or LinkedIn. About
Nice.
future, well, as I said, like the kind of pyramid is done right now. So we have foundation, Snowflake, then we have pipelines and for logic and DBT. Now we have pretty mature self-service layer. And next, well, it's kind of hyped, but I want to double down a little more on intelligence.
Okay.
So not like just, yourself exploring, but basically, communicating with data with all this super hyped GPT styles stuff. So like there are a lot of projects and like even some vendors right now on the market that actually really makes this integration. I mean, I'm not really sure about how exactly integrate that. We're going to be using OpenAI or maybe some self-hosting open source models and stuff. So that's actually the project for this year.
Nice.
So we are pretty much done with the covering those self-service, means like what you're looking for, and you pull this yourself without SQL. Next thing gonna be really insights. I mean, not only BI people giving you insights, but also like this prompt way of asking and like discovering data, like explaining data and like finding some anomalies. And I think it's actually not even more of a technical challenge here, but like we be careful about legal, because you have to be like like what about data protection, because it's also competitive data of our clients sometimes, like they really have to separate even like within the company. So that's going to be a challenge, but yeah, that's an interesting project. So we have this pyramid, and then gonna need some, it's even like an idea for the slide. We're gonna slide for the roadmap. So like every year out of this extra like layer for the pyramid. I mean, we already done like last year, and then who build the pyramids, right? Obviously aliens. So gonna be aliens, UFO. That's gonna be intelligence and all stuff.
Right. Nice. And the team, is that growing this year?
So team is pretty much settled. Company is like 170, and the whole team right now, 6.5, 7 people, depends how you count it. We are looking for one person to join us to pretty much balance. We have like two directions of operations, like B2B and B2C. And B2B is covered. B2C, yeah, we're looking for one person. Yeah, there is actually a position right now open. But as I said, it's like mid and senior, but the main requirement technically is actually SQL. Yeah, difference between senior and mid, well, your level of SQL basically. So if you don't know DBT or you don't know Airflow, and you want to really try some cool stuff, fun stuff, that's definitely a chance. Yeah, and skill is only a requirement, which means you don't really, yeah. I mean, if you're in data, you definitely know skill.
And a passion for film?
I mean, comes without saying. So obviously those who relate to, I mean, I work with many industries, so I was working for the BI vendor. So like by nature, I was talking to different clients every day, and like, from healthcare to agriculture to some, macroeconomic data. So you have to understand that, but also when it comes about something that you're really passionate about, I mean, movies and TV shows, many people love them, right? So if you're not in TV shows, at least movies, it's cool to like when you debug something like some analytics, it's cool when you debug stuff about your favorite film, movie, and TV show, because you actually know about that stuff, right? Well, you can see that this does not look right, because I know this Marvel TV series was on Netflix, and then actually they dropped the license, and now it's on Disney, and now good back. So you can do that, and if you like it, you definitely enjoying it more, rather than some hypothetical abstract, I don't know, like transactions or like insurance coverage. No offense to insurance companies, but still, like, this is fun, and yeah, it's fun to talk about films and movies when you work on the projects, and like you have to always like open the Jasper side. Like, it looks like like on any other company, you see people actually watching YouTube on during the job. Like, what are you doing? Like, you can go to work, and here it's actually part of the job in a way. So it's pretty amazing. Obviously, if you have a passion for the movies and TV show, that's always extra plus. So because I like working with the passionate people, with the highly motivated people, those that don't, just do their job, but actually really have fun with this. because you can find actually more interesting insights when you love what you're doing. You might just look more, oh, that's interesting, let's dig more.
Yeah.
Yes, so passion is important.
Amazing. Well, appreciate you joining us today, Sasha. Thank you very much for your time.
Sure.
Best of luck for the year. Ciao for now.
Ciao. Thank you, Matt.